Hey, what's up, guys? Oh, what is this? This is a bookshelf video. What are you putting all your books on the floor? Well, I figured I'd do a little preview of what I'm trying to hopefully have for you in terms of videos based on these works for October, our favorite month, and the horror month. Although I would argue that the damn July and August for me are the horror months. The weather is so damn pleasant in October, okay? For me anyway. So, and of course, Halloween, right? So there should be some surprises for you as well. So a special guest star at the end of the month. Hopefully, you never know, right? In this world, what can happen. Also, another film, a short film anyway, and some music. We shall see. But in terms of the reading, I put the stuff that I haven't read. Actually, I have read one of them, about 5 or 6 amazing stories, but I figure I would cover this. Also, in terms of copyright, these are all public domain. Hopefully, most of this shall hold for that. So, we got the Ian Radcliffe, the Italian, one of the Gothic novels of the British writer. This is from, I believe, the late 1700s, perhaps the early 1800s. I know she was writing in that period. Jean Lorena. This is the decadent period. This is the turn of the last century, whereas this is the turn of the last century. I'll tell you, I'm a huge fan of the decadence. This guy is not as well known. Brian Stableford translates, I believe, a lot of these decadent writers from my favorite time period, the fin de soleil. Okay? Charles Brockden Brown. This guy gets forgotten as an American writer next to like Washington Irving or others. Apparently this is a romance, as they call it. Okay, you know, when you say a romance, it is not a romantic novel. You know, it is usually like some kind of very dark story. I started reading this. I need to read it again. This is also from the late 1700s. Of course, this one was mentioned by Mr. Alan Moore recently in a video. One of the first Gothic novels. It's not too long. The Castle of Otranto. Of course, there was very much a in vogue in Britain for Italian things. So you could say even Germany at some point, the Germanic kingdoms at some point. Italy was like the term romance, Roman. It comes from this. And this is actually the intro I read. The guy is as interesting as the novel he wrote. He had some really interesting architectural things that he did. I believe he was a member of Parliament. Of course, the monk, this famous one. I need to go through this as well. This is always mentioned. I've had this for years. It took me a long time to read. Of course, Melmoth the Wanderer, which is also mentioned in the same vein as this. I recommend you good. I cannot recommend enough that novel, Melmoth the Wanderer. And of course, and Mary Shelley. Okay, the apocalyptic novel she wrote, The Last Man. I haven't read this yet, so I heard she also wrote some short stories as well. You know, these short story is always the best format. But that's the plan. So we'll move ahead. So we'll go to the Lawrence Apocalypse. Okay, I think I gotta be careful with this one if you know anything about this. I don't think I've went over this. The Secret History of the Jersey Devil. Now, I will admit that the story about the Jersey Devil is far less interesting than the history of essentially DIY pamphleteers and almanacs that were made by people, and it's far more interesting than actually the subject of this, of the Jersey Devil itself. But you know, we'll see. You know, we'll see what you guys think. Of course, I have some of these Lovecraft letters. I mean, dude, this guy wrote so many letters. I've read 2 of these through. I want to read some more. Obviously, I may not be able to hit every single letter, but you know, and it's a good little cross section. Of course, Clark and Smith, perhaps the best writer of everyone. Derleth, of course, we know Derleth, the guy not known as for his writing as much as pretty much making Lovecraft known to the world at large. Right? Of course, Floridian Barlow. This is the young kid in Florida that he used to visit and talk to. Kind of a tragic story there. And of course, just one of the first things of Means to Freedom. But who is that? There's no name on here. Who is he writing to? Oh, son, Robert E. Howard. That's right. And there's gonna be a little more of Mr. Howard, but also we're gonna come down. Oh, yo, wussy, you got the annotated version of the Untergang des Abendlandes. Sumi. I got it on A-Books years ago. Of course, this one here. Oh, Saint Joshi. That's H.P. Lovecraft, The Decline of the West. So I'm gonna do, obviously I've read through this. I underline things. I have to go through it again. There's a lot of things here, but it should be interesting. Dante's Inferno. Okay, I got two different versions. This one has pictures in it, which is, I don't know, did Dante draw the pictures? I doubt it. So where are they? Where's the pictures? So anyway, of course, this is older than anything here. We go through that. Great silent horror film. Probably one of the best, longest silent films ever. You gotta see the Italian silent film of this movie. Going over here. What is this? Oh, this is more focusing on, obviously, I have different short stories here to go over, but the Henry James, very underrated writer. Everyone knows the turn of the screw. Silence in Henry James. It was actually a book. I actually got this book for $1. But pretty much a lot of covering of Mr. James. I think his ghost stories are the ones I've read. I've read 3 so far. He wrote 10. Really amazing. Really amazing. So, and like in these classic short story collections, I think the Jolly Corner is in this. There's always something in here unique. I'll probably try to go over, like a story or two, someone you haven't heard. But and this book covers a lot with Henry James and Lovecraft, from a very underrated writer, in my opinion. All Images of America, Ghosts and Murders of Manhattan. Well, Murders of Manhattan. All right. So obviously, spooky kind of things rather than the humdrum slaughter of the city that occurred in the last century. Speaking of cities, New York lays claim to, of course, this man here. Oh no, Richmond does. Oh no, Baltimore does. Oh no, Philly does. He's like me. This guy's been around. So, and this is an interesting book here. This is actually from a couple of years ago, from the very underrated Barnes Noble Annex. There's always something in there worth getting, and you get a lot for it for not a huge price. This is actually, of course, the whole thing with Poe, as you can see, even in his own stories, not just the early detective stuff. He was a big fan of cryptograms, puzzles, kind of clever, like word, sort of like little interesting mysteries. You even have it in Arthur Pym of Nantucket, and those whole. And here you actually have, right, the gold bug, right? And Meisel's master. Not my. Oh, I'm thinking the other story. The one with the automaton that plays chess. That'd just be interesting. This guy I'll always go back. This guy, in some ways, is the godfather of almost everyone here, except maybe some of these people. But from here to here, my bro. Now, of course, some more. These are some vicious stories. I cannot do a reading of a few of these stories. I mean, I could, but I might do a reading of another story he did that's probably more direct. I will probably do that for Halloween. But in terms of the readings, right, audiobooks, I've decided that I'm going to do an audio version of one of the best stories Howard ever wrote, which is saying a lot. The Worms of the Earth, with Brad McMorn. Yeah, The Worms of the Earth. For a lot of reasons I want to do it. Someone did a reading of this years ago, and James had the temerity to link to the guy, and the guy was like, "Take off the link, because you are a bad person, very, very disgraceful." So I figured that I will do that with my dulcet tones. So would you like to hear that? I also want to do another reading of something I meant to do for a while. Okay, probably one of the best stories, poetic narratives of Mr. Jeffers. The love and the hate. So, it should be interesting. Rounding it out. Oh, hey, Alan Bryce, I saw this advertised in your magazine, and I said I had to get it. I had to play it. I had to order it from England. It was like £40, 61 pounds total. It was like, it was interesting. It was about $65 altogether. But I got the Royal Mail sent me email updates. They were very professional. So, but this thing, oh my god, this thing is. I love mummy films. Hammer made some of the best mummy films, obviously. And every little bit, they even have like dailies, script changes. They actually have lots of the promo stuff. There is so much stuff in here. They even have the production sheets for the daily shoots, particularly for Blood from the Mummies 2 with my girl Valerie Leon. Oh man. So you sipping out now? No, I'm just saying. This was I paid. I became a boomer and I bought this. So anyway, and most of the books here I got not at the less than the price here. This one as well. This is very interesting. This is about. I mean, it's a lot of pictures, so it should be easy. But this is a century or more ago. The imagery of Halloween, how it developed in the United States and Canada, where you start to see this stuff pretty much at the beginning, maybe the late 1800s, but like the 1900s is where you start to get like, especially with postcards, which are a very big thing with the mail service being more developed. The art, a lot of the imagery we have of Halloween, you can see how folk inspired and how European inspired it is. But really, you start to get the stuff we take for granted as imagery of Halloween, which is now probably slowly going away, is from this time period as well. So, and this is another book I got for pretty cheap. But how many books on Ham are you gonna have? Well, you got not enough, lady, not enough. So, and this one I got. I know this one was interesting. This is the guy you see on the cover of a lot of the Weird Tales stuff, and it's kind of an interesting thing because he sort of the guy reminds me of a guy who would do album cover art for like death metal or like thrash metal stuff. Okay, kind of a limited artist, but his work was featured so much in particularly in some comics, but also in the Weird Tales illustrations and covers that you've seen with Lovecraft and what have you. So kind of interesting. So to see that you don't really see too much mentioned about this guy. So. And if I'm feeling so plucky, I might go over this. I've had this book for years, okay? There's some stuff in this that's degenerate, but there's some stuff in this that's really creepy. There's some photography is a hobby, the side hobby I have that I always wanted to get into more in terms of like making those weird photos with like you make the camera out of the can, right? And with the photo paper, you develop it in your bathroom. And there's some really like you think of horror photos, imagery, and there's a lot in here. There's also that other guy, I forgot his name at the time. He did a lot of stuff too. There's a huge book of his stuff. I can't remember his name right now, but I think this would be worthwhile to go over. So, because in the end, it's all moving pictures, isn't it? All right, we'll see if I can pull this off. So that's why we're starting now with the freaking cicadas and the freaking hot ass weather.